Yeah.
Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, April 11th, 2024. Welcome to episode 84 of the Old Mage MTG podcast, aka a tribute to the original episode 81 of the Old Mage MTG podcast, which was recorded on March 12th, 2024. It was our finest work. I dare say it was even better than what we released as episode 81. That was Premodern Soldiers Part 1. Don't get me wrong, that was a mighty fine episode, and you should check it out if you have not already. Even if you have already, you should just click it and watch it again. It's just that that episode, while fantastic, was not at the same level as our original episode 81. We were firing on all cylinders, but I screwed it up. It's lost to the sands of time forever because this is a podcast run by amateurs, and I don't understand audio engineering, and I can't figure out sampling rates. But we're
You
going
were
to
trying
do.
though. You were reaching for the stars.
Well, I'm
You
trying.
felt burnt, but
You know,
back.
I'm trying to level up. It's not always an easy to step up. Sometimes you trip. You trip on a stair every once in a while. That's what we did with the original episode 81. Today, we're going to do our best to pay respects to that episode. While you are here with us today to pay tribute, if you'd like to support us for free, that's the key. This is totally free. You can give us a like. You can subscribe if you haven't already, wherever you're listening to us. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. You can also support us, again, for free by clicking our TCG affiliate link. Next time you buy collectible cardboard orders through tcgplayer.com. That's right. We have a TCG Player affiliate link. It costs you nothing, and we get a little bit in return for the click. Everybody wins. Who loses, Alex?
Nobody.
Nobody. That's right. We're coming to you a little later this week. You might notice the episode is not out on Wednesday. It's usually out on Wednesday. Sometimes it's out on Thursday. You might notice you're listening to this episode. It's not Thursday either. It's later than that. We apologize. We were busy worshiping the sun gods because we were both within driving distance of totality. There was a solar eclipse. We were near totality. I will say, people, if a total solar eclipse ever happens next to you, that is not something you should miss. Don't miss it. I was looking at my Twitter feed after the eclipse, and there were people in Cleveland, Ohio, which was right in the middle of totality, tweeting about like they didn't understand why people were going outside to watch it. What were you doing, man? You're going to tell me, oh, I was busy on Zoom talking to clients about deliverables, so I missed it when the sun changed into a giant black hole in the sky surrounded by a halo of silver. I was busy talking about deliverables. What are you doing with your life? It was my second time seeing it. I saw one in St. Louis in 2017. Totality's just following me around. I say it's just like Jenny's ice cream. I was in Columbus. I loved Jenny's ice cream. I moved to St. Louis. Jenny's ice cream showed up. The first year I was there, they moved to St. Louis. When I was in St. Louis, Totality happened. I moved from St. Louis back to Columbus. Totality happens in Columbus just a few years later. I've witnessed Totality twice in under a decade, and I haven't even been traveling for it. Totality's following me around. In a few years, it's going to be in New Zealand and Australia. Those are two of my favorite places to go. I think that's a sign because I want to move there. So I think it's a sign that I'm supposed to be there by 2027.
Probably.
Was it everything you thought it would be, Alex? After I saw it the first time, I've been telling everybody to go. I'm like, you got to go. You got to, if you can take a day off and get there, you got to see Total.
I had seen like, pretty good eclipses, not totality though. And like it was cool, like it made everything kind of, overcast and eerie and dark, and you could see the crescent if you like look through it. But this was way different. This was cool. It got like totally dark, and there was just like a silver ring around the black sun.
It's
It was
not the
cool.
same. Yeah, you think you look through the glasses and you see a little sliver and it's like orange, a little orange sliver, and you go, wow, you think you know what a total solar eclipse looks like. There's a world of difference between 99% and total eclipse. Total eclipse, the sun
Yeah,
turns into a black hole. It's surrounded by a silver halo. This time
the birds
uh,
go insane.
I saw ejection patterns, like silver coronal ejections all around. It's incredible. It's incredible. Anyways, that's enough solar eclipse talk. It looks just like Damnation, this Magic the Gathering card, Damnation. Except there's more silver around the outside. Yeah, the birds go crazy. It's fun. It's fun to watch it too in a place where there's a lot of nature around. First time I saw it in St. Louis, I was in the park there. There's Forest Park, like a main park. Not quite in the middle of the city, but it is in the city. I think the second largest urban park in the United States. I can't remember if it's the second largest, slightly smaller than Central Park, or if it's the largest and Central Park is slightly smaller than it. But I think it's the second largest. But I watched it there in an area that was like, I can't remember what they call it. It was like the bird sanctuary area of the park.
Oh,
It's just like a natural bird land. It's, so there's always a lot of different birds in that area. And when it went totally black, all the birds flew back. And then totality only lasted for like 30 seconds where I was at that point. So they all come swooping in, and then 30 seconds later, they're all confused and they all head out again.
yeah, we saw a bunch of turkey vultures actually, and they started just like circling overhead. Like, and, it was ending, and they're just like circling there. Like, I don't know, I guess it like woke them up and they didn't know what to do or whatever.
It confuses all the wildlife. It confused me too. I was in a manic state. I was pacing back and forth. I was just yelling. I was like, look at it. And then I would pace back and forth for 30 more seconds. And then I'd be like, are you guys looking? They're like, yeah, we're looking. Okay. Okay. Enough solar eclipse talk. We're going to get into our MTG topics for the day. We're moving on from our pre-modern soldiers discussion. We had 3 episodes on pre-modern soldiers. I hope it was enough pre-modern soldiers for all of you. It was enough for me. I think I'm ready to move on
Enough for
now.
me. Yeah.
We covered the white soldiers. We covered the blue, green, black, and red soldiers. We covered the gold pre-modern soldiers. We even covered the damn bird soldiers. We covered some soldier utility cards. We covered some bird soldier utility cards. We did it all. That's enough for now. I hope you enjoyed that deep dive, and I hope you are looking forward to digging into some different topics today. Today, we're going to talk about one of our current favorite pre-modern Magic the Gathering decks. People are calling it maybe the best deck in the format. We talked about it before, but it's evolved, so we're going to mention a little bit about how it's evolved. We're going to take a look at some spoilers also from some upcoming releases. Magic the Gathering, they can't stop putting out new cards. It's 55 sets a year. Can't keep up with all of it, but I can keep up with what pre-modern playables are being reprinted in these sets. That's what I'm doing right now. I took a look at the spoilers from upcoming sets. I saw some pre-modern playables in those lists of spoilers that got me excited. I'm going to talk about
I don't know
those.
about them yet, so
Might give you a chance to snag some cards at a lower price or pick up some alternative artworks to spice up your decks. Most of the boomers like us, even though we're not boomers at all, but people like to call everybody above the age of 20 a boomer now. Boomers are fucking 65 or some shit right now, however old the boomers are. I don't know, they're in their 60s.
yeah, I feel bad for all of the Gen X people who are getting like labeled as boomers.
We're being labeled as boomers.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking millennial. We're the world's oldest millennials, Alex.
I know.
Anyways, boomers, they play these old pre-modern formats like we do. They like to use the old frame cards, the originals, but some people just like to watch the world burn, and they don't buy the original versions. They buy the newest, silliest looking version they can possibly find, and they build decks out of that. So here's your chance to do that if you want. Also, if you don't do it just for a goof, if you don't do it for a meme, maybe you like the new frames. Some people like the new frames too, so these are also for those people.
I mean, I've started working in some like new artwork and new cards to
Yeah.
decks that I'm playing with, you know?
I like it because, it gives not all of the cards that they reprint are expensive in their original printing, but some, they get up there 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50
Yeah.
bucks. Uh, when things like this happen, when they're reprinted, it gives me an opportunity to snag something at a lower price if I want. So, anyways, let's start segment one. I'm calling segment one, Red has entered the battlefield. In this segment, we're discussing the pre-modern Terra-Oath deck that I'm digging. Everybody's talking about it already. We first talked about this deck on episode 69 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. We might have been called the Old Man Magic podcast back then. I can't remember. Since then, the deck has evolved in ways that I think make it more resilient. I'm going to start out by just giving a brief recap of the original mono green version, because the Terra-Oath deck in the version that I first saw was a mono green deck. I enjoyed that very much. We went through some of these versions of the mono green Terra-Oath deck on episode 69. This is just one of those versions. This is, I believe, the last version we talked about. Some of the versions had mulch, which I did really like in this deck because it has 30 lands. This is a mulch-less version, but this is also very good. I'm going to start with the creatures because it's an easy place to start with this deck. There's only one creature. It's Terravor. There's 4 copies of Terravor. This is the finisher in the deck. You just need 2 to 3 swings with a giant trampling Terravor to end the game. If they deal with the Terravor, then your alternative win condition is the man lands. So they almost always run 4 Mishra's Factories, 4 Treetop Village to deal combat damage. I really like the Terravor, and I really like this deck because, one, you can cheat the Terravor out with a big enchantment that we're going to talk about. Other decks in the past, and other decks currently still, use this same enchantment to cheat creatures out. But they usually use it to cheat creatures that are really big and casting cost out. Creatures that would be difficult to just cast. I like the Terravor because you could cheat it out with this enchantment, but you can also just easily play it for 3 mana. You can blow up people's lands with your land destruction spells, with your wastelands, and then play out a Terravor that's maybe 3/3 or 4/4 or 2/2 or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Oath helps you get to it if you don't have it, but you can still hard cast it if you need to. So that's
so you can hard cast it.
very strong card for the casting cost, Terravor. Like,
Very much so.
You obviously have to do something to make it work, but it fits right into, some combo decks pretty easily, and it's a nice casting cost.
Yeah. The enchantments. There are 3 different enchantments. Oath of Druids is the big one. With Terravor as your only creature, if your opponent puts any creature on the board, a mana elf, a bird of paradise, a goblin lackey, pick your favorite 1/1 or your 2/2. You're going to oath out a trampling Terravor. It is almost sure to be bigger than whatever your opponent played. So you could just sit here with your oath out. They play any creature, they're effed. Strong enchantment. Always has been a strong enchantment. When we first got back into Magic and I learned about the pre-modern format, I was going through the card pool. I saw Oath of Druids. I was like, damn, this is a powerful card. I picked up 4 copies. Haven't really done much with it yet, but it's obviously good, obviously strong. Multiple Sylvan libraries, 2 Sylvan libraries. Some people are running 4 Sylvan libraries. If you're running multiple copies, of course, it increases your odds of drawing 1. That's good in green because it gives you a little bit of card draw, card selection in green. What if you play 2 at the same time? Never really thought about doing that. But I'm kind of warming up to the idea. There's not a clear benefit if you have 2 Sylvans out at the same time, unless you choose to pay the 4 life to draw one of those 2 extra cards that you get to see.
Okay.
If you have 2 Sylvans in play, I think the way this could work is, the Sylvan triggers go on the stack. So you draw your card for the turn. The first Sylvan trigger on the stack will resolve. You look at 2 extra cards. Let's say you pay 4 life to keep one of those extra cards. Then you just put 1 back on top of the deck. And then the second Sylvan trigger will resolve. So you'll pull 2 and you'll see 1 extra card. I
Okay.
think that's how it works. Might be even better than that. Maybe you see 2 extra cards, but I don't think that's right. I think I got it right. I think the first trigger resolves. You look at 2 extra cards. You can choose to keep 1. You put the other back, and then the second trigger would resolve, and then you pull 2. And one of those will be a new card.
Okay.
So
Well,
you
I
might
also
want to do
wonder
it. It might be
about
worth it.
I also wonder about combining it with Miri's Guile. Because if you have a Miri's Guile down and a Sylvan Library down, like those would definitely work together, right?
I think so. I can't remember exactly the wording on Miri's Guile or
So
exactly
Miri's
how that
Guile
works,
happens
but
during your upkeep. You may look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. So every turn before you draw, you'd be able to rearrange the top 3.
Mhm.
So like, let me think about that because I just brought it up now.
Well, then you're gonna be rearranging. Hold on. Read to me what Miri's Guile says.
During your upkeep, you may look at the top 3
Okay.
cards of your library
So
and
you
put them back.
untap, upkeep, Miri's Guile triggers. You look at the top 3 cards of your library,
Yeah.
and then what?
And then you put them back in any order.
Okay, untap. So then you put them back on any order.
Yeah.
So then draw phase happens. You draw your 1 card. It's one of those 3 that you reordered,
Yeah. Well,
and
you're going
then
to draw all 3 of them that you reordered.
the Sylvan you draw. You may draw 2 extra cards, so you'll draw the 2 extra cards. So you're still looking. You're just looking at the 3 cards that you rearranged.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if maybe it would help you, like, the next turn then if you'd have like more fresh cards in your top 3, but I guess not.
I don't think so. I'm just thinking of this off the cuff right now. But based on what you read, and based on the fact that Miri's Guile happens during your upkeep and Sylvan triggers during your draw phase,
Yeah, I
I
guess there
don't
wouldn't
think you're
really be
seeing fresh
much
cards.
of a benefit to it. Okay, never mind. You can edit that part out.
I'm not going to edit that part out. We're just thinking through something in real time. And maybe we're wrong, and maybe somebody will listen and be like, no, it actually does allow you to see extra cards. But I think when we just talk through it right now, I think we got it right.
Yeah.
But anyways, I never thought about playing multiple copies of Sylvan. But it does actually, if you choose to pay the 4 life to draw 1, because the triggers go on the stack and then they resolve. If you choose to pay 4 life to draw an extra card from the first Sylvan trigger, then you do get to see an additional card if you
Yes.
have them stacked. Explorations. This is the other enchantment in this deck with all the main lands, Rishadan Port, Wasteland. You can play a forest and play a creature or a mana denial land in a single turn. I like that. So not everybody runs exploration and Terra-Oath decks, but I do like to see exploration and Terra-Oath decks. And then the artifacts. There's Mox Diamond, of course. I mean, this is great for a little bit of ramp. People use it for mana fixing all the time. Of course, you don't need it for mana fixing in this deck because it's a mono green deck. But it also does get a land in your graveyard, so it helps build your Terravor.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is it's $500. If you want to play 4, then your deck is starting at $2,000. That's why you don't see the Mox Diamond everywhere. But if you're playing with your friends, you can proxy. Smokestack. Smokestack is in this deck. This is the forecasting cost artifact from Urza's Saga. And I've been playing around with the Smokestack a little bit. And I'm kind of digging it more than I thought it would. During your upkeep, you may put a soot counter on Smokestack. During each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a permanent for each soot counter. On Smokestack, this is for removal. It can remove all sorts of things. But in this deck, it's probably mostly another way to get rid of their lands. You have so much land destruction in this deck. 4 Thermokarst, 3 Winter's Grasps, 4 Wastelands. You get the Smokestack on the board. Either they're going to have to ditch another land or they're going to ditch the one thing they were able to
Yeah.
play out.
Right. Yeah. It's either, you know, it can punish them for like the few things they are managing to play while they're under pressure from land destruction. So
Yeah.
just kind of cleans up whatever you aren't destroying.
I like it because it seems to be a little bit, it's not always going to do exactly what you want it to do because your opponent gets to make some choices. I tend to not avoid. I don't tend to gravitate towards creatures that like let your opponent make a choice necessarily because they could play around it. But uh, I like that you can play around Smokestack too,
Yeah.
simply by
It keeps
sacrificing it
happening.
to itself, you
So
know?
ultimately, it's going to get like all the permanents. You know what I mean? If it
Yeah.
allows to continue unchecked.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It keeps happening. If you can just stay a little bit ahead of
Yeah.
them, eventually they're going to have to get rid of the thing that you really want them to get rid of because they're
Yeah.
forced to sacrifice something during each upkeep. And I like that you as the controller can play around it because you can sacrifice it to itself during the upkeep.
Good point. Yeah.
So if you're worried about losing something you really don't want to lose, you can say, okay, I'm done playing the smokestack game. You
Yes.
sacrifice the smokestack. And then Sphere of Resistance. This is a 2 colorless artifact from Exodus. All spells cost an additional 1 colorless to play. Great when paired with all the land destruction in this deck. It just makes it, if you get land destruction spells and Sphere of Resistance in your opening hand, you get that ball rolling. It makes it really hard for your opponents to play anything. And it's probably not as bad for you as it is for your opponent because this deck has such a low mana curve. Everything in this deck is 1 to 3 casting cost.
Yeah. Were people
Yep.
playing Winter Orb in these decks first and then switched
I
over
don't
to?
know. I don't know that I ever saw Winter Orb in these decks, but I can't
Because
remember
you could
exactly.
always like, I don't know, you could go with like some like Manimals and some Winter Orbs,
Yeah,
as, like, an alternate way of like doing it. But I
good.
don't know.
You could.
I feel like they probably worked that out, and that's why they're doing this because it just like works a little better.
Smokestack is 4 casting cost. That's your highest casting cost card. The smokestack 4, not bad at all. So it has a nice low mana curve, and then the lands. There's 30 lands. You got your forests. You got I mean he puts copies of the fetch lands in here, but that's just to get extra lands in the graveyard to feed the Terravore. And then you got your 8-man lands, your treetop villages, your Mishra's factories to do extra damage. Rishon Port to again, you know, mana deny. Your opponent, and then Hickory Woodlot, which is a card that I never played before, but I've been messing around with a little bit in this deck, and I do like it for this little bit of extra ramp. It comes into play tapped with 2 depletion counters, but then every time you tap it, you remove a depletion counter from Hickory Woodlot and add 2 green mana to your mana pool. So you can end up definitely with more mana than you would have without a Hickory Woodlot on the board on turn 2.
Mhm.
You get something out faster
And then
than
it goes to the
expected.
graveyard to feed the Terrible.
And then it goes to the graveyard to feed the Terror. Yeah, if there are no depletion counters on it, you sacrifice it, put it in the graveyard. So there's a lot of upsides to it in this deck. So that's the mono green version that we talked about already. A very fun deck, a deck that I liked a lot. A deck that I wish I had thought of when I was over here screwing around with pre-modern mono green stompies. It's changed a little bit. There's a red-green version that's going around now. I'm going to discuss why you might want to mess around with this beautiful monocolored deck by adding red to it. Why would you want to do such a thing?
I would
Well,
be super tempted to splash red or maybe white in
yeah,
for like removal.
exactly. Why would you want to do such a thing? Well, for those reasons. White gives you the best removal spells in the game. Red gives you direct damage plus great removal spells. Uh, I don't know how many people, started splashing different colors in here. I know some people have played some green-white ones, and I've heard them talk about their green-white versions. And they seem to think that they're weaker than at least the red-green version. Maybe
I can
even
see
weaker
that
than the
because
green mono green.
yeah, that little bit of direct damage, like if the Terravore thing fails and you have to be relying on your man lands to finish them off, having some lightning bolts in there in the mix can help. And the white is just removal and not direct damage. So I'd go with probably the more aggro slant on it, at least after I thought about it for a while.
The person that I've seen pilot the red green version is this person right here, F Palouse MTG. That's FPAWLUSZ MTG on YouTube. I think I've talked about his channel before. He's well known in the pre-modern space. If anybody is listening to this show, they probably already know this guy's channel because he's much bigger than we are, much more involved in pre-modern. He's I don't know if he's a former Magic pro or whatever, but he's a top player in a lot of different formats. He's really good. And I love watching his videos. I don't normally watch these Magic the Gathering online videos. I like to watch, if I'm watching gameplay, I like to watch paper gameplay. Cloud Goat Ranger has my favorite pre-modern paper gameplay because I just like the layout of his channel. I like the layout of his videos, and they usually have some really nice commentary to go along with it. But I like watching this guy's online videos because he does great commentary as he's playing. I mean, he's really good at doing like an introductory deck tech describing why he made the decisions that he made about which cards to include in his deck. And then he's also really good while he's playing, like describing his thought process about what's going on, why he's doing the things that he's doing. So you can watch several videos of him piloting this red-green Terravor deck on this channel. All the way back here, 2 months ago, red-green Terraponza. 2 months ago, winning the first ever pre-modern challenge with red-green Terraponza. He took this mono-green deck and splashed in Pyroclasms, Lightning Bolts, Pyroblasts, Red Elemental Blast. That's pretty much the difference, and it makes a world of difference, I think. The thought was that these changes, I think, would help him against some of the other best decks in the format,
Yeah.
specifically Goblins and Elves. The Pyroclasm makes a big deal, a big difference there. It's a big deal there. And then also Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, one of the
Yeah.
other really strong decks in pre-modern is mm, Dreadnought, blue-white
Stifle Knot.
Dreadnought. Yeah, Stifle Knot, blue-white Stifle Knot, mono-blue Stifle Knot. Land Still is strong from time to time. There's blue-white weenie decks that show up. So it's always good to have some Pyroblasts, Red Elemental Blasts. And he likes to run a mix of them. I think it's good to run a mix of them because a lot of blue-white decks will put in Meddling Mage. And if they name Red Elemental Blast, then you also have some Pyroblasts
Yeah, I
available.
was thinking about Meddling Mage too there. That's a good idea.
So yeah, the thought was these changes would help the deck against goblins and elves, specifically two very strong creature decks, which can overwhelm quickly with low casting cost creatures, and it helps against blue-white control. So the first version, I'm pulling up a bunch of different versions here. First version, he brings in some Stone Rains. So you still have your green land destruction, but he spiked in a couple Stone Rains here. Because when you're changing up the mana base from a monocolored to a two-colored deck, it might be a little bit harder to reliably cast these two green casting cost spells. And
Right.
both of the land destruction spells in green require two forests, and then a generic Stone Rain is just one red. Two generic. Whether or not it's the right decision, I don't know. It's totally fine decision. It may or may not be the best decision. I might just stick with, I don't know if you should spike in two Stone Rains versus just sticking with all green land destruction spells is what
Or
I'm
even
saying.
go with more Stone Rains and less of the green ones, you
Yeah,
know?
potentially.
I don't know.
In the sideboard, he also threw in Call of the Herd. I think this is also a good way to fight creature decks. It's a 3 casting cost spell, puts in a 3/3 green elephant that can block a lot of goblins, and you can flash it back for another 3/3 elephant. Also, it's good to swap out Oath for this when you're playing a creatureless deck. When your opponent doesn't have any creatures out, what do you want to have an Oath there for? Well, not much. So maybe you want to put in a Call of the Herd to add a little bit more creature power to the deck. And then there's an Earthquake and a Lightning Bolt. So Stone Rain to
Rains.
mix up the land destruction. The Earthquake is really to clear out the Earthquake and the Lightning Bolt, really to clear out early game, small but very powerful, very important creatures that your opponent might be playing if they're
Meddling
playing
Mage again.
if they're playing goblins or elves. So yeah, an Earthquake can take care of an early game lackey. A Lightning Bolt is there. I think he put it in for a first turn lackey, goblin lackey. Lightning Bolt can also take out Meddling Mage. Earthquake can take out Meddling Mage. If your opponent's playing elves, you can get rid of their Wirewood symbiotes. They are query on rangers, with these spells. Second version of the deck, Lightning Bolts are out. Pyroclasm's in. So the second version of this deck, I saw him running one Earthquake, one Pyroclasm. He gave up on the Stone Rains. I liked this decision because I was hearing him talk about it, and he was like, when I switched to red, when I put red into this deck, I put the Lightning Bolts in to deal with the turn one lackey. But do you really need to deal with the turn one lackey? I don't think so. You
Not if
can
you're
let the turn one lackey hit the board. You can
Pyroclasm. Yeah, sorry.
let the turn one lackey swing in for one damage. Let the turn one lackey bring one of his buddies to the battlefield. And then you drop the Pyroclasm and kill the lackey and whatever the lackey brought into play.
Yeah, you can store it up a little more than the lightning bolt and hit multiple targets, so that's good.
So I like that. And we're just nitpicking here again, like we were with the Stone Rains. Should you run two Pyroclasms and just get rid of the Earthquake? I don't know. Different people have made different decisions. There's a third version where he took the Earthquake out totally and he just ran two Pyroclasms. I don't know which one is necessarily the best. But what I will say is I like the fact that the Earthquake can also do some direct damage. So you mentioned put in Lightning Bolt because it can also go to the face. You can also do direct damage if you need to finish out the game. Well, when you get rid of the Lightning Bolt, you don't have that option anymore. Pyroclasm doesn't do damage to the player, it just does damage to creatures. You get that ability to go to the face again if you spike in an Earthquake.
Plus,
I
you can
like that.
kill some 3 toughness creatures.
Yeah,
If
you can kill 3 toughness creatures, 4
they
toughness
might have
creatures.
something down the pyroclasm you can't deal with. And I feel like the bigger the creatures you get, the more they fall into the I'll just let the Terravore handle that category.
Yeah.
But if they have a couple, mid-range creatures, you might need to kill, 3/3 elephants or something like that.
No, I totally agree with that. I like the
Keep it
Earthquake for
going.
that reason. I got to plug in my other computer. I'm still here. But yeah, Earthquake, it gives you more versatility in the size of the creatures it can take out, and it can do direct damage. I like that. Chop away at the life total. But that's it. Those are the changes to the deck. They're minor changes. Spike in red to add either lightning bolts, earthquake, or pyroclasm, but I think it makes the deck a lot more resilient.
This one has 4 Sylvans. Did it have 2 before?
Oh, yeah, this is the F. Palouse loves to run 4 Sylvans.
Okay.
Yeah, the original. Well, I shouldn't say
The
the
one we were
original.
talking about before had
The
2.
one mono green version that we looked at had 2 Sylvans.
Okay.
Uh, F. Palouse or F. Palouche is really big on 4 Sylvans. I
Okay.
think
And this has no smokestacks either.
all three of these versions, 4 Sylvans, 4 Sylvans, 4 Sylvans. He went hard on the Sylvans. A lot of different people are coming around on the 4 Sylvans. I'm hearing people on podcasts talk about 4 Sylvans. People in Discords going on about 4 Sylvans. I'm at
I mean,
work. Some
if you're
guy came up to me the other day. He goes, 4 Sylvan libraries. I said, what are you talking about? And then I looked at him. His eyes were all glazed over. And then I shook him. And he was like, where am I? He doesn't even play Magic the Gathering. He doesn't know what Sylvan Library is, but he was saying 4 Sylvans. People can't stop talking about it.
okay.
What were you saying?
Uh the 4 life it probably isn't a big deal to get you some extra cards when you're using the Terravore to like combo early and kill people with it, is
Mm-hmm,
all I was
mm-hmm,
gonna say.
mm-hmm.
So it's good card draw. People are normally, I think, hesitant to pay that for it, but if you're confident you're gonna win the game in 2 turns, you know.
I am always hesitant to give up 4 life for a card, but maybe I mean I gotta mess around with it. I got to give it a go.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know, like if you really have your opponent in a lot of trouble with all the land destruction, you got some spheres out, and you're like, they can't do anything really. I got them at a point where they're not going to be doing much. It's not as risky to go down in life to draw some extra cards just to get them
Mhm.
out of there faster. So, anyways, those are the changes to the deck. This was one of my favorite decks I'd seen in a long time in the mono green version. Like that very much. And the red green version is probably even a little bit better because it can just deal with more.
Yeah, I like having that. Even, I mean, in this stage, it's only two spells. It's only one Earthquake and one Pyroclasm, right? But
It's so
that's
simple.
still,
It's so simple to slip those cards in and
yeah.
essentially run the same deck with more versatility.
Mhm.
We know this. Everybody knows this. That I mean, monocolored decks are not
Yeah,
usually
they're
the
gonna
optimized version of a deck.
they're gonna have a weakness.
Yeah. There is always something that appeals to me about them, though. The
Me
purity.
too, yeah. I always start off doing them, then I add something in. So
Yeah. That's usually how I start, actually. I
I
go,
like having
okay,
the commander deck like it is now because I'm forced to stick with mono green. You know, I'm just
but I do when we got back into Magic, I started by building monocolored decks, mono green stompies, mono red decks, burn decks, stuff like that. Mono white angels. Just build a mono deck to get myself started. And then as I play it, start to think about what the weaknesses are of the deck, what I can slide into the deck. And then
yeah.
I typically add a second color. And if I'm going crazy, maybe I'll add a third color. I don't know. Anyways, good deck. Now on to segment two, Alex. We're ready for segment two. A couple weeks ago now, probably more than a couple weeks ago now, probably maybe a couple months ago now. There was a huge convention in Chicago. Lots of spoilers were released. Amongst the sea of spoilers, I saw some reprints of pre-modern playables that were going to be present in upcoming sets later this year. I want to talk about those reprints. So segment two is called Upcoming Pre-Modern Reprints. Fallout Universes Beyond, I think, was already released. If it wasn't released already, it's about to be released. I believe it was already released. I think
I'm
it was
pretty
on.
sure. I think I've seen people talking about opening it.
It was
So
released on March 8th, I believe.
okay.
Uh, there are some pre-modern playables that were released in Fallout Universes Beyond. I want to take a quick look at those. Let's have a gander. Yeah, when I first planned this segment, Fallout was not printed yet, but now it is. This is the list on Scryfall. Just pulled up on Scryfall. I go to Fallout Universes Beyond, set it to pre-modern legal. This is what pops up. Black market, an enchantment for 3 colorless, 2 black. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on black market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black for each charge counter on black market. So a mana generator. I think this one, how much does this one cost right now? Maybe like $7. It's not particularly expensive. It's an original from Mercadian Masks. Not the most expensive card to pick up, but maybe you like the alternative art. I don't know. Yeah, $7.72 right now. So black market you can pull from Fallout.
Okay.
Darkwater Catacombs, I think maybe there's a whole cycle of these like filter lands where you tap and pay
Yeah.
1 colorless and they give you allied mana colors. Yeah, Darkwater
They're from
Catacombs,
Odyssey.
Mossfire Valley, Shadow Blood Ridge, Sky Cloud Expanse, and Sungrass Perry. No big deal there. Just a
They're
decent
from
dual land
they're
type.
from Odyssey and they've been reprinted in like it looks like 14 sets or something.
Mhm. Fertile Ground, a cheap card. We didn't really need to see a reprint of that, but here it is. Fervent Charge, an enchantment for 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I don't know when that was first printed or what the current price of that is.
Apocalypse
Apocalypse. Okay.
from Apocalypse. There's a bunch of look like big Kavui kind of guys on it.
Yeah, I think that's what those are. I think.
Uh, this card needs to not have one black in its casting cost.
Yeah,
It
it
should
is
just be
kind of,
one white, one red, one colorless.
yeah, it's not, I mean, I don't see this card and it doesn't particularly appeal to me. I don't know why it had this huge spike. It was over 20
Here,
bucks for some reason. Now it's just been dropping, dropping, dropping. It's going to drop even more. I'd say just go for the original if you really want to play Fervent Charge.
there's probably something that generates like a bunch of haste tokens, that you can like attack with
Yeah.
all at the
Yeah.
same time when it generates them, and they all get +2/+2. I don't know.
Mind Stone. This was an old mana rock /
Yeah.
cantrip, I think, from
Uh-huh.
Weatherlight. Decent card. Didn't need to see a reprint of it, but here it is.
Art, but not the set. Is it one, two words? Mind Stone
Yeah, 2 words.
is from Weatherlight. You're right.
Okay. This one I was pretty excited about. Centurion of the Marked, aka Lord of the Dead. It's a Lord of the Dead reprint.
Lord of the Undead.
Lord of the Undead. Yeah, sorry. Which is a zombie lord that gives other zombie creatures +1/+1. You can also pay 1 colorless, 1 black, and tap it to return target zombie card from your graveyard to your hand. As loyal listeners of our podcast will know, I did say last year I was going to be building a pre-modern zombie deck in late 2023 or early 2024. Early 2024 has passed. I have not built that pre-modern zombie deck yet. I pretty much know what cards I want to have in it. It's on Moxfield. It's almost ready to go. I haven't been buying many cards lately, you know. I had a decent job. I don't have that job any longer. I actually have a better job now, but it pays a lot less. So that means a lot less cardboard in my life. So you know what? Plans for the zombie deck have been delayed. No big deal. I'm just
It will
telling you.
rise again.
If you're wondering why I haven't built the zombie deck yet, why didn't you post it on Twitter?
Poverty is the answer.
Yeah, I can't buy those cards.
I have a zombie deck I want to try against you sometime soon.
Okay.
I don't think it's super great, but it's using one card that I think is kind of fun and not overly used, to be continued.
That's a challenge, a direct challenge. I got a fires deck fine-tuned. We can play zombies versus fires. I think that's a pretty fun and fair matchup.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the original Lord of the Undead from Plane Shift, almost 20 bucks right now, 17.27. So I was happy to see a reprint of this. I don't know how big this print run is or what it's going to do to the price, but I would like to see Lord of the Undead at a cheaper price. That would make me happy.
Uh-huh.
Rampant Growth, they like this. I don't know why they're printing green mana ramp in Fallout Universes Beyond, but that's what they're doing. Fertile Ground and Rampant Growth, both reprinted. Rancor, not an expensive card, so not a reprint you needed, to make the card more affordable for the average player.
You
But
might want this crazy art though.
I do really like the art. I mean, I love the original Rancor. I'm probably gonna just continue to play the original Rancor, but I could totally understand why somebody might want to have this in their deck because this is quite
Yeah.
funny. I like this. If you're
You have
gonna
some sort of
reprint,
rolling pin deck.
this is what you should do. If you're gonna reprint cards that aren't expensive, make the reprint fun and unique in some way. And they did that with Rancor. I really like that. That is Rancorous Ruth beating a man half to death with a rolling pin. Maybe that's Rancorous Ruth. I don't know that. It could be Malefic Maud or Irate Ida.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna guess it's Rancorous Truth because the card's called Rancor.
Damn it, you're right. That has to
Maybe.
be Rancorous Ruth. It probably is, yeah.
It's not for sure, but that would slot well into a uh baking or cookie deck with the rolling
Okay.
pin.
Okay. I don't remember who it was from, but like a couple sets ago, sometime in 2023, I think there was that gingerbread man running around.
Yeah, and there were some cards I think in like New Capenna and like Lord of the Rings have to do with baking and feasts and stuff like that.
Squirrel Nest. So this is another pre-modern reprint. 1 colorless, 2 green. Enchantment, enchant land. Enchanted land has tap, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. This was not an expensive card. Squirrel Nest.
I wouldn't hate that in my commander deck, maybe.
It would be pretty good.
I don't think it's making the cut, but see here. I have it on my list for now, maybe. So we'll see.
Okay. Originally an Odyssey, yeah, it's only $1.35. So this is a pickup, I guess, if you want the unique Fallout art. There's demented. These are rad squirrels in the wasteland. The rad
Yeah,
squirrels have their eyes
that's
out for you.
close.
They're lunatics. They're all radiated up. Looks like they stared at the eclipse too long when it
I
wasn't
think
in
these guys are
totality.
kind of big too. Look at the human skull for scale.
Is it a human skull?
Well, I guess it could be a
Because then the tree would have to be a giant tree too.
small humanoid, I guess.
Would it have to be a giant tree?
Maybe not. No, no.
It would have to be a bigger than average tree.
Yeah,
No,
a big tree.
let's say this is an average tree. A squirrel
Mhm.
doesn't usually take up an entire branch of an average tree.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but that's too small to be a human skull, I think. But it's the shape of a human skull. I don't know. I can't figure out the scales. Swords to Plowshares reprinted, and then the Tainted Lands are reprinted. Temple of the False, none of those are expensive. Temple of the False God. Since we've been back in Magic, I feel like they've reprinted this card multiple times. And I don't know why. Land, tap, add 2 generic mana, activate only if you control 5 or more lands. Are people into this card? I don't think we need it anymore.
I don't know. You're right. It's been in like the last 3 sets or four. What? Lost
Yeah.
Caverns, Karlov Manor, Fallout, and
Yeah, stop
Outlaws
it.
of Thunder Junction.
Stop it. Stop it.
It's been in Doctor Who, Wilds of Eldraine,
What's going on?
March of the Machines, Commander Masters, Phyrexia All Will Be One,
Yeah, somebody
Warhammer.
needs to put a
It keeps
stop to that.
going. This is like
Yeah, somebody needs to put a stop to that.
Baldur's Gate. Jesus, it's been in like 11 of like the last 14 sets.
There's no reason for it. And when they did those 30th anniversary cards, like they printed one card from like each year or something and made it like a special 30th, and they put like a 30th stamp on it or something. I swear they did it with that card too.
Mm.
I could be wrong, but Wild Growth. And then here we get to a really good one, actually. Wasteland. Wasteland's not a cheap card, so it is good to be able to pull it out of a pack because
Yes.
it consistently runs above $20, I believe. And in addition to that, this is a totally Fallout themed Wasteland. They really went in hard with the theme.
Yeah, it's
So,
cool. I like how it
enjoyable.
looks. I don't think I'll play this in any of my decks.
I
just
won't either.
like that cartoony,
Yeah.
Divergence from my normal theme, but like it's cool for a Fallout card, and I like how they did it, and it fits Wasteland.
Mhm.
I also am kind of thinking that it's probably not going to affect the price of the other Wastelands very much.
Probably not.
A card that has a lot of demand, and I think the people who get this one are kind of going to want this one just because it's unique. And they'll buy it in addition to their other wastelands that they already own,
Probably, yeah.
as opposed to instead of a wasteland.
Yeah. I agree. So those are the pre-modern reprints, the pre-modern playable reprints in Fallout.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to the Lord of the Undead.
I like the art in these lands, the borderless basic lands.
Okay.
They're
Wasn't
pretty
even
cool.
paying
Like got
attention to
planes
them.
there.
I guess characters from the Fallout game. I never played Fallout, so I don't really know.
I've only played bits, and it's been a long time since I played Fallout 2 back in the day a bunch.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I like these kind of post-apocalyptic basic lands. They're pretty cool looking.
Okay. The next set that they spoiled, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So when we first went over this in episode 81, there were no pre-modern legal cards in the main set, so we didn't really have anything to talk about. And now there are still no pre-modern legal sets in. I don't know how to call these. There's no pre-modern no pre-modern legal cards in like the normal Outlaws of Thunder Junction packs. I shouldn't say that. I'll just say they have a series of cards that they're calling breaking news. And
Okay.
they have this unique treatment, this unique art treatment that looks
Yes.
sort of like an old-timey newspaper. It's the Prosperity Post.
Yeah.
It's a newspaper layout. And they're reprinting quite a few cards, with this art treatment, and some of them are really strong pre-modern cards. So here we have Decimate, Dust Bowl, Fling, Grindstone, Pariah, Reanimate, and Repulse. And some of these cards are not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be pretty nice to be able to pull these out of a pack. And
Dust
they're unique art treatments, and they're pretty cool art treatments too. I like originals, of course, but if I were to pull one of these, I wouldn't be mad at it.
I would be mad at it.
Mercadian Mass Decibel's over $20 right now.
It's been creeping up.
21.20.
It's been creeping up pretty good. But I was gonna say, yeah, Dust Bowl and Grindstone, both I would like to see the price go down on. So I'm glad to see those reprints.
I don't know how these breaking news reprints are being released. I don't know. Geez, Louise. I don't know if they are for audio only listeners. That was Alex sneezing. Just so you don't get scared. You're like, what happened? I don't know if these breaking news reprints are like, one per pack, or how rare they are, or if they're in like special collector packs or whatever. I don't know. So I don't know how many copies of these cards are going to be added to the greater card pool. What was I getting at? Oh yeah, so I'm not sure if they're going to bring the price down much, but we'll see. I would also like Dust Bowl to become less expensive. I would like Grindstone to become less expensive. Grindstone from Tempest, $34.18 now. I did not expect this card to be this expensive, but it is.
I was looking at this a year or so ago, out of curiosity, because I thought eventually at some point I might want to throw that into a deck, and it's frustratingly pricey,
Yeah.
for a card that I'll probably just use for a lark,
Dust Bowl's up there in price. Grindstone's up there in price. Reanimate's up there in price. I think that's over a $20 card.
Yeah, we're about there, 15 to 20 last time I looked at it.
So here you have an opportunity to get a cheaper one, although the original, the art is so cool.
Yeah. I have to say,
I
when I
would
looked
still
at that
want
at
it.
first, like a minute ago, I was thinking Animate Dead and not Reanimate, so I didn't notice it as much. But Reanimate's good for a reprint. I like seeing that because it's a card I need to pick up. It's like $22 right now.
Yeah. Tempest, $22 card. Decimate, Fling, Repulse, Pariah, not all that expensive. But if you like this treatment, go with these versions. The Fling one is really cool. What do you say? You don't like it?
I don't really like it, no.
I saw these and I liked the Dust Bowl just because of the
Cool.
theme.
Yeah,
And then
it's cool art.
and then somebody else was like, "Oh, I'm really digging Fling." And then I zoomed in on it and I was like, "Fling actually is really cool."
Yeah.
Throw in this flaming skull. But I would like this better with just a sweet black border in like a dark red and not looking like the Prosperity Post.
Yeah, I don't know. And this art style just, it doesn't really do it for me. Dust Bowl looks good, but most of the rest of them, it has like a I don't know, comic booky feel to it that's,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, just seems a little outside of the rest of what I'm normally playing with.
Fair
But
enough.
if you like them, that's cool.
It's got its own style.
Yeah. Reanimate reminds me kind of like a choose your own adventure art.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mentioned there's a bunch of different reprints in this breaking news style. I'm not going to talk about a lot of them. A lot of them are reprints of modern cards, but Mana Drain is being reprinted
I
too.
heard that. Yeah.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction,
Oh,
breaking
okay.
news. Oh, this one doesn't even look like a breaking news version. Cool. There's
Oh
some
yeah,
sort
it's
of
same
borderless.
art, but a borderless.
Yeah.
It
Oh
has
yeah.
it has the same like font though in like the title of the card, that mana drain up there. It's like
Yeah.
all caps.
I like this a lot better still than that.
I like it more, but I don't like how they wrote mana drain on the card.
Yeah. Well, Mana
Oh
Drain's
well,
expensive.
it needs to
So
be, yeah. Mana drain needs to be brought down a peg or two.
Legends is almost $200 right now. The Double Masters versions, yeah, 50 to $100 depending on what treatment you find. So
I like that Double Masters 2022.
this one?
Sorry. I swear they both just said that. Go down.
They did. This one too. There's this
That one.
borderless one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that one. That's pretty cool.
So here's your opportunity to at least pull one from a pack, so you won't have to spend a minimum of $55 to get some version of Mana Drain if you're looking for a Mana Drain. Modern Horizons 3 is another upcoming set. There was big news from Modern Horizons 3, Alex. This is something I've been waiting for since we started thinking about Magic the Gathering again a couple years ago. I learned about fetch lands for the first time, just like 2 years ago. You know, we didn't really play when fetch lands were first printed. I wanted fetch lands for all sorts of pre-modern decks. You look at the price of fetch lands, it's expensive to put together play sets of fetch lands. They're like 50 to 100 some bucks, depending on which one you want to buy. The Allied Pain lands are being reprinted, which is fantastic. And the Allied Pain lands are the only ones that are legal in pre-modern. The enemy Pain lands were printed for the first time in the modern frame.
One
So
of the saddest things about pre-modern as a format, you know,
it is weird that
don't
you
have
don't
access to half of the fetch lands.
half of a really powerful land cycle.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this to happen, waiting for a couple years. It's finally happened. It's happening. Ron Paul GIF. It's happening. Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothills, all being reprinted. You could see them in these versions. Modern Horizons 3, these frames with this artwork. I got really excited when I went to the Wizards of the Coast website.
I like this.
They're reprinting them also borderless with different art that's really nice, and also in an old border treatment.
Yeah. The old border treatment, that's not bad, but I really like that borderless one. That's sweet.
The borderless versions of some of these especially are really good. The Windswept Heath looked fantastic to me. The Polluted Delta looks good too.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. The Windswept Heath was the standout. It was the star for me personally. Where are you at, buddy? Here we go. Look at that. That looks
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
I like that a lot. So I'm psyched about this. And I'm hoping that these will bring down the prices of the originals, which I think Windswept Heath is probably the cheapest of the original fetch lands, allied fetch lands. $50. We're to $52.
Yeah, I think this definitely will impact those prices because at least if it's like, you know, Modern Horizons 2 was like a big print run, it was out for a while. So if they're printing a ton of Modern Horizons 3, then I feel like, yeah, this should definitely affect the price of these.
I think so. So I'm waiting, you know, this hits the market. I'm going to wait 6 months. I'm going to
And
see
I
where
don't
some of
even
these are
mind
at.
getting some of those new ones. I might, you know, I'll probably crack some Modern Horizons 3 packs, you know, if I can get those potentially.
Yeah, some of the borderless did look very good. Yeah, these originals from Onslaught, 50 to like $110, depending on which one you get, you know. So those were that was the big news from Modern Horizons 3 for me personally, and probably for all pre-modern players. In addition to that, to that land cycle, that allied land cycle, we have Priest of Titania, which cool.
Okay.
But you know,
Good, but yeah.
people can afford Priest of Titania already. And no new art, so you know, whatevs. And then finally, Assassin's Creed. That was the other set that was spoiled.
Oh, okay.
Not much here. So far, what's been spoiled? There's only one pre-modern playable reprint. But it's one that I'm very excited about. Cover of Darkness. One colorless, one black enchantment. As Cover of Darkness enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have fear.
Nice.
I'm very excited about this one because, as listeners of the podcast know, Cover of Darkness is in the commander deck that I'm currently building for 2024 with Atagatog as my commander. It's an Atog deck. I put Cover of Darkness in there to give all of my Atogs fear because none of my opponents are going to be running Atogs. I'm going to have fear-inducing creatures nobody else is. I was very irritated by the fact that this Onslaught Rare is $46.50 currently. That's the current market price on MTG stocks for, a light play version. That's way more than I want to expend on this card. So I don't know what the print run's going to be like for Assassin's Creed, but I'm hoping this comes down. It's already started to come down quite a bit. I don't know. It looks like it probably already started before the announcement of this reprint, but I think it's going to continue after the announcement of this reprint. I
Nice.
hope to get this for under 20 bucks, but we'll see. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the pre-modern reprints from upcoming sets. I'm most looking forward to, and the big news is the Allied Fetch lands. Those are the ones I'm psyched about.
Very nice.
Other things, it's like, okay, if you like the new art, pick up the new art. Let's move on to the last segment of the podcast today. The last segment is the Old Mage Commander Corner. We skipped this last episode. We're getting back to the Old Mage Commander Corner where we are building our 2024 Commander decks. Mine is a deck with a Tog as my commander. I just mentioned that when I was talking about Cover of Darkness. So far, these are the creatures I've added. We got not all, but a lot of the old frame ATOGs. So far, this is an old frame only deck. I think I'm going to keep it old frame only, so that limits the ATOGs I can use. I have a clone to clone some ATOGs, or maybe just to clone some badass creature that somebody else plays. Mistform Ultimus is every creature type, including ATOG. And then I'm adding some enchantment cards, because I wanted card draw in this deck, and I thought, how am I going to get card draw? Oh, I'll build a Tog in an Enchantress shell. And that'll be good because then when I play my enchantments, I can draw cards. In addition to that, some of the best old frame ATOGs also eat enchantments. So they're things that I could feed to my ATOGs to pump them as well. So I got Argothian Enchantress, Ephemeris Enchantress. Whenever an enchantment is put into a graveyard from play, that's what Ephemeris Enchantress does, draw a card. So I play an, let's say I have Argothian Enchantress and Ephemeris Enchantress out. I play an enchantment. Argothian Enchantress allows me to draw a card. I could feed that enchantment later on to one of my enchantment eating ATOGs. Ephemeris Enchantress allows me to draw a card when that enchantment goes into the graveyard. Since a Tog is 5 colors, that means I'm playing a 5-color deck. So I'm adding just some 5-color good stuff too. Sorceries so far I have Wheel of Fortune, Demonic Tutor. Instance, I have Berserk because I'm going to kill my opponents with this deck through creature damage. Pumping ATOGs by feeding them things, pumping a Tog by feeding it ATOGs. It's also great to berserk some of these creatures after I pump them. So I got the berserk in there. I can fling them after I pump them and attack with them with fling. And then just some 5-color good stuff. Swords to Plowshares, Lightning Bolt, Naturalize, and Disenchant. I put a couple tutors in an episode or two ago. I'm going with Enlightened Tutor and Vampiric Tutor so far, in addition to the Demonic Tutor. Don't have many artifacts in here, just the Soul Ring, Fellwar Stone. I need to build up my enchantments. I'll get to that over the next few episodes. Right now, I'm just running Animate Dead, Cover of Darkness, Enchantress's Presence, which is another card draw card with enchantments. Rancor, because Rancor works great with ATOGs that eat enchantments, like Oratog. Rancor up the Oratog, sacrifice the Rancor to the Oratog to give it +2/+2. It goes to the graveyard. It comes back, replay it for 1 forest. You can get the Oratog really big. Just cycle that for as many forests as you have. Keep playing it. Today, I'm going to add some counter spells. I don't have any, I'm playing blue in here. Blue's going to be one of my primary colors in this deck. If you're playing blue, why not put some counter magic in your deck? It comes in handy a lot. I don't have any counters in here yet. Today I'm adding counters. I'm going to add Arcane Denial. I think I'm just going to go with the counter spells that only require 1 blue. I think I'm going to avoid the original double blue counter spell just because it's difficult to play all the spells when I want to play in this 5-color deck. So Arcane Denial's added. I'm going to add a Mana Leak. Mana Leak from Weatherlight originally, I think. I'm not going to add this one. Going to go with the original printing. And I like it better.
Good card.
And it's cheap. It's been reprinted a lot. There we go. Stronghold. Originally from Stronghold.
Thank God. If this hadn't been reprinted a lot, it would be a pretty penny.
And then I have a Force of Will. So I'm going to add a Force of Will. Because it's always nice to have a Force of Will in your deck. If you're playing blue and you're allowed to play Force of Will, why not play it? It's a very strong card. That's the end of my counters for today. So that's where I'm at now. I got some creatures. I got some enchantments. I got some removal. I got some direct damage. Now I got some counters. Now I got to build up all these different categories of spells that I've added. I have one. I believe I just have one. Force of Will from Alliances. Okay. This is the current state of my Atog commander deck called a deck. Alex, your commander for 2024 was Seaton Crozen Protector. Your deck is named Seaton's Power. It's a mono green druid deck. You're going to ramp out all sorts of stuff. You're going to play a bunch of powerful creatures that I can't deal with. And then you're going to crush me. But we're not building these decks just to play against each other, so that's okay.
True. Correct.
Seaton Crozen Protector is your commander.
I have lots of druids, so I may make use of Seaton's power. I haven't put in any big creatures yet, really. I'm going to keep saving that. Today, I wanted to add a few tutor spells and a couple of artifacts, if that's okay with you.
Tutors and artifacts. Okay, bring them on.
Soul Ring. Just going to put a Soul Ring in there, right?
Gross.
Got to do it. Gross.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's not gross. I love Soul Ring. I'm going to continue to put Soul Ring in every single deck I ever play.
I mean, and like, we've talked about this already, but this deck is probably not going to be hurting for mana too much. I don't know if I even need the Soul Ring. It's obviously a great, it's very efficient for its cost. But if it ends up being a target of someone else's removal, I kind of don't even mind. I might just, it's fine in here just as like removal draw for people. You know what I mean? Obviously, I want the mana, but I don't really mind if someone destroys it either. So
yeah,
you might wasting something.
You might want these. You might want to keep these enchantments in your deck around longer than you would want to keep the Soul Ring around. So yeah, I mean, if you play Forest Soul Ring, it's going to be an immediate target.
Yeah, and it's good for me, but they might be overestimating how good it is for how useful it is for me.
Yeah.
Another artifact I want to add is Feldon's Cane.
This is an interesting addition.
Yeah, I don't, and this, maybe this will come back out, but I do want some graveyard stuff in here. And there's one or two green cards I've looked at that I'm gonna add, but Feldon's Cane's pretty, just mana efficient and simple for being able to get a few key cards back into the shuffle for me, I think.
One colorless mono artifact. Reshuffle your graveyard into your library. If Feldon's Cane is used, remove it from the game, returning it to its owner's deck only when the game is over. Oh, you mean when the game ends, you get to keep the card? I thought you had to throw it in the trash.
Yeah, it's removed from your deck forever.
Yeah. Oh, can't play Feldon's Cane any longer.
That's so
you get
funny.
one use out of it. And then if you want to put Feldon's Cane back into your deck, you have to get another Feldon's Cane.
Yeah, or make a deck.
Or make a new deck, yeah.
It reminds me of the Ultimate Nullifier from Marvel Comics. Remember that?
No.
It was like a weapon that I think the Fantastic Four used against Galactus. And it was this real little mechanically gunny kind of thing.
Okay.
They had it in Marvel cards.
I should remember it if it was in the Marvel cards too. I stared at so many Marvel cards.
Yeah, they had that one I don't know what you want to call it, part of the set that was all weapons of characters. So it was Wolverine's claws and Spider-Man's web shooters, and the Ultimate Nullifier was one of them. Used against Galactus.
one of Fantastic Four's tools. Sorry, Mr. Fantastic's tools from the Fantastic Four. Maybe he made it.
Probably.
I'm just looking, doing some research. I'm doing some Ultimate Nullifier research right now.
We're going deep.
Okay, you got any other cards that you want to?
You got any other cards?
I'm reading about Ultimate Nullifier. So I was just saying that. So like if you want to add cards, you can talk while I continue to read about Ultimate
Yes.
Nullifier.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I will add Worldly Tutor.
Well, hold on, Alex. I'm
That
busy reading about Ultimate
kind of a
Nullifier.
no. I'll keep talking, don't worry. It's, it's kind of a no-brainer. Just a good green tutor to get the creature I want up at the top of my deck.
Worldly Tutor. I knew it. You
Oh, is it
said
illegal?
no, I'm just spelling worldly wrong.
Oh, Wordly. I know Mystic Tutor's illegal.
I've done this before on Moxfield and said the same thing out loud to myself. Is Worldly Tutor illegal? I mean, not legal? And no, you're just spelling it wrong, Steve. Worldly Tutor, one of the original Mirage tutors.
Okay. And then Defense of the Heart.
Okay. This card. I like this card. I've heard people say that it's often a disappointment in Commander
Oh, really?
because you just don't get it off. You think you're going to get it off, and everybody knows
Oh,
it's there, and they don't let you get it off.
okay. We'll have to pay attention then.
But who cares? Play the cards you want to play. We'll see. We'll see if everybody goes after this. Maybe they've already blown their disenchant on your Soul Ring, so they can't do anything about your Defense of the Heart.
I mean, I have to keep it out through one round around the table, right? You know, I
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
let my opponents have a chance to destroy it. Although later in the game, if there's only one or two people left, you know, could still be useful. All right,
That's
all right.
true.
I'll consider that then. Since you said that, I'll keep that in mind that maybe I want to keep it in the gray area.
But if it
Um,
does go off, I mean, it's such a cool card. You
yeah,
just need
because
you need an opponent to control 3 or more creatures, and then you get to tutor up any 2 creatures from your deck and put them straight into play. It's beastly.
straight into
Yeah.
play.
This is the kind of card, even if it only works 2 out of every 10 times, those 2 times
It's
are
huge. Yeah, it'll
are
be
fun.
super fun for you
Yeah.
when it goes off. Yeah. Um, so then I guess last card, Natural Order. Pattern
Okay.
of Rebirth is on my list too. Okay. And I've been fascinated with Pattern of Rebirth a lot since we started playing again. But in a mono green deck, I feel like Natural Order is the better call, unless I'm going to put in both, which I might still do. But Natural Order, I don't have to wait for the creature to die. It just goes off, and they
Mhm.
can't really, you know, interfere with that like they could with uh, Pattern of Rebirth.
What am I doing? Yeah, I love Natural Order. I mean, it's a powerhouse. It's a green powerhouse. I'm playing
This
around with
card
Natural
came out
Order.
in Visions. I was just like all about it. As soon as I saw this card, I need this.
I'm working on a black-green pre-modern deck. It's not, I'm not making it the Rock, but everybody wants to call every black-green deck the Rock, sort of.
That's unfair.
And Natural Order Rock is a version of the Rock.
Oh, okay.
I want to play Natural Order black-green uh, pre-modern deck. I'm just kind of dicking around with some things, trying to
That's
figure
my
out.
style. That's why I like black green because of that sort of thing. It's like, I don't know. You have cool sack effects, graveyard effects. You can bring creatures into play immediately. Uh,
I want
Mana ramp
to.
and mana fixing.
I decided I wanted to build a deck after we talked about Veteran Explorer a couple episodes
Oh,
ago.
okay,
I was
okay.
like, what's so good about this card? And then I thought about it more. I'm like, this is pretty awesome. I want to play around with a deck that's focused really around Veteran Explorer and doesn't need Veteran
Okay,
Explorer to
that's your
work,
goal. No.
but yeah, that's what I'm building around.
And
Four
then you have
Veteran
natural
Explorers,
order, the veteran explorers.
4 Veteran Explorers, 4 Cabal Therapies. Where do I want to go from there? Natural Order just seems like a
Hmm.
good thing to definitely put into that deck because Veteran Explorer is a great thing to sacrifice, and then you can go get whatever green creature you want.
Hmm.
There's a lot of big green creatures
Sure are.
to pull up.
I think I'll add some of them next week to my deck.
Okay, next week. The Ultimate Nullifier is a fictional device of immense power appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The device made its first appearance in Fantastic Four Volume 1, issue number 50. Johnny Storm retrieved it from the home of Galactus to employ against Galactus himself.
All right. I'm surprised Galactus has not eaten his own home by now.
It is
No?
described as the only known weapon in the universe capable of this inspiring fear in Galactus. I don't remember much about Galactus. Does Galactus eat?
He's like a world devourer. He
Okay,
like
just a
goes
general
around
word.
like sucking up all the energy off. I never had any comics with him in that. I was not like a Fantastic Four person really. I just know about him from like Marvel cards and stuff.
I always really enjoyed the planet. I believe the planet was named Ego, and he actually did float around the universe devouring other planets.
Oh, okay. I remember that a little bit now.
Ego Marvel. Ego, the living planet, is a fictional character in Marvel Comics who first appeared in Thor 132. He's a celestial, which I believe Galactus is also a celestial, the ancient race of beings with godlike powers. He has the power of an entire planet at his disposal. He has psychic abilities such as telepathy and is the only sentient creature in his sector of space called the Black Galaxy.
Okay.
He has superhuman strength. I would hope that he did. He's the size of a planet. He has a humanoid form and a glowing blue brain. I was totally unaware of his humanoid form.
Oh yeah, I think I know that. Yeah. I remember a big brained. Yeah. I have to see some images of this now to jog my memory.
Well, let me do that. Let's do
Do
that
that.
right now.
Side
This,
note, Transformers has Unicron, who is also a large transformer planetoid being that devours other planets.
okay, I know nothing about Transformers, to be honest. Ego the Living Planet Marvel. I keep wanting to call him Ego the Living Plant. He's a living planet.
Yeah, and I
All
feel like
the
I remember this purple face planet art.
I'm disappointed because all the images are showing up are very
Yeah, like
new
new.
interpretations.
None of it's old
Yeah,
old comic book stuff.
original Ego Marvel original art, original appearance. This looks older.
Yeah. The one just to the left of it seems
This one's
familiar to me, like
yeah.
that sort of art.
Thor, Behold the Living Planet Ego.
Oh,
Very different there.
that's cool.
Yeah. Anyways, this is the end of episode 84 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for joining us today for this tribute to the original episode 81 of the Old Mage MTG podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Consider our TCG affiliate link next time you make any cardboard purchases through TCG Player. Maybe some of these pre-modern reprints, upcoming sets, you might want to pick them up for some decks. I don't know. Maybe click that link. Maybe get them from TCG Player. You don't have to. You could also go to your local LGS. You could also click other people's TCG affiliate links. F. Paloo's MTG, we talked about his gameplay videos earlier today. He has an affiliate link also. You could click his. I've clicked his before. You can click his instead of ours. It's up to you. I'm not the boss of you. You could do whatever you want. But if your heart tells you that you should click our TCG affiliate link, I would appreciate it. That would be awesome. I do really appreciate it. Every time somebody clicks that link, I get excited. Alex, I think I'm done for the day. I've had enough. I have
Yeah.
enough pre-modern MTG in my life for the day. I'm looking forward to next week. We're going to start a whole new topic next week. We got some episodes in the works on Dead Guy Ale. I want to learn about the origins of Dead Guy Ale. I would see Dead Guy Ale decks, black-white decks, I'm like, hold on a second. These look a lot like black-white decks you used to play back in the day, Alex. These look a lot like some black-white decks I've seen people play in old school, different card pool, but similar ideas. I'm like, I don't remember these decks being called Dead Guy Ale. Even the old school guys call them Dead Guy Ale now. I was like, when did they start calling them Dead Guy Ale? Well, I found the answer, and I'm going to tell you all about it next week. I hope you're looking forward to it. If you already know the answer, you should still listen to the episode. It'll be fun. Do you have any words of wisdom for the viewers, Alex? I used to always ask you if you had words of wisdom, and then you would be like, no, I don't have any words of wisdom. And then off the pod, you said, Steve, you got to stop putting me on the spot, asking me for words of wisdom. And I'm like, Alex, I'm not putting you on the spot. You know what's coming every week. You could look it up in advance and just have it ready to go. And you said, no. And then you flip the table over, and then the Zoom call ended. So I haven't asked you for words of wisdom for a long time.
I'm not that wise.
And right now, when I just
What?
asked you for words of wisdom, I forgot about this. I forgot I wasn't supposed to ask you for words of wisdom. It just
It's
came
okay.
out, and now
I
I'm just
do. I
running with
have
it.
I have some words of wisdom today, I think.
That's fantastic.
Uh don't look at the sun.
Don't look at the sun.
And maybe that's too late this week, this year, but next time also don't look at the sun.
I'm going to tell you something totally different. I'm going to say that the other day, I went toe to toe with the sun. People were saying, don't look at the sun. And I stared the sun directly into its flaming eye. And I did not blink. And you know what the sun did? It retreated. It ran behind the moon like a candy ass. I defeated the sun. I stared it directly in its eye, and I came out victorious. So Alex is telling you not to stare at the sun, and I don't really know what he's talking about because I was totally fine when I did it. I'm sitting here reading the show notes. I'm sitting here looking at pictures of Ego. My vision is still working.
You can still see clearly, yes.
I have a couple floaters now that I didn't have prior to Monday, but that I don't think is a big deal, you know? So I'll revise. You can stare at the sun only at very specific times when it runs its candy ass behind the moon. And if you're wondering when those times are, I mean, astronomers worked this shit out a long time ago. You can just look up the charts. We know when it's going to happen, what country it's going to be visible in. We know exactly what second totality begins and ends. So just make sure you consult your charts before you go staring at the sun. How about that? I'm done. That's it for the day.
Thank you.
Okay, talk to you next week.
Bye.
I ain't gonna do this anymore. That's all for me. Goodbye.